been our human resource director for a few years now.
A few years.
I don't know if you were here when I was here, but when I came first, but he's been here a few years, that's good enough. And prior to that, he's been in this field as well. So he comes with a lot of experience. I would listen to what he has to say. In fact, I have a first question for him. Based on what you've seen in the letters and the resumes, would you invite any of them back for an interview?
Probably.
Oh, okay.
Probably.
I'm a little bit more harsher than you, but that's nice. Anyway, thank you for coming.
It is my pleasure. Is this the full class?
Not everyone is here, but that's part of the reason we also wanted to do the video.
I don't do well on video.
Or just...
I'm not photogenic at all.
That's okay.
Just ignore that I'm here.
I am Human Resource Director here at the university. I have been here working on 14 years now. Before that, I have spent many years in human resources, in manufacturing, in healthcare, in hospital work. I've been at corporate offices. I've also worked in technology. My work in technology took me to Russia and Bulgaria to recruit programmers. And and I've also run my own company doing outplacement consulting work. How many of you are familiar with the term outplacement? Okay, a new term for you to be aware of. Outplacement is what happens when you have been terminated from a company and they provide you assistance to help you land on your feet in your next job. It is what we call a niche industry in the human resource arena. And it takes people who have been laid off, fired, or for whatever reason have lost their job. And a company says, we want to treat you right, therefore we're going to provide you some assistance in getting your life back together. Oftentimes an outplacement consultant is used when someone has been terminated and it has been not just a termination, i.e. you lost your job, but you lost your job in a particularly ugly way. You got crossways with the company, they got mad at you, you got mad at them, and things went downhill. And they say, you know, in spite of the fact that we did not do well with this employee, we would like to help him or her land on their feet in their next job. And so they provide you work, and those companies, outplacement companies, they will provide you help in building your resume, building your cover letters, doing your networking, and doing some practice interviews, which you're going to be doing with me, as you try to find that next employer. So that's kind of what I have been doing over the span of my career so far. I have enjoyed it. It's been a rewarding profession. And Dr. Murray asked me last year to come in and speak to his class, and I must have done well because he asked me back. So we hope that you will feel that you have gotten a beneficial service and information by the time you are done working through this process. So we're going to start by talking about resumes. And we're going to start talking about resume preparation. Why is a resume important? Does anyone want to answer that question for me?
It tells you who you are.
Pardon me?
Because it tells you who you are in terms of how you fit into the career.
Okay, that's a good start. Why else is it important?
Talks about your skill set.
Talks about your skill set.
Gives you references.
Why else is it important?
It helps the employers to go through employees faster, I guess. Like,
Well, that's true.
figure out-
How many of you are omnipresent? Do you know what omnipresent means? What does omnipresent mean? Say what? Everywhere at the same time. Yes. Your resume can help you get everywhere at many different times. You have a cover letter. We're going to talk about that next week. Resume importance is that it's a knock on the door. Your resume will never, ever get you a job. All it does is get your foot in the door. And your resume must be well prepared and well presented, because it is the only look that someone may get at you. And so you have to put your best foot forward on your resume. It's your foot in the door. The resume itself. Think about the resume as painting a picture of who you are. Think about all of the different aspects of your life. The hobbies that you have. The leadership activities that you've been involved in. Did you actually start a business while you were in high school? All of that information needs to be put into your resume. It begins to paint a word picture about who you are as a person. And that is what gets your foot in the door with the employers. It goes where you can't. Spoke about being omnipresent. Your resume can be in 30 different stations at once, 30 different companies at once. You can't be there. And when it comes to job hunting, one of the most key things that you can remember is that numbers make a difference. You need to get your resume out to as many different employers as you can. Now, you are juniors, seniors?
Juniors.
Juniors. Okay. When you get ready to do your job search a year from now, you need to start right now for a job that you want after graduation. That means you need to start sending out your resume probably after January. You need to start getting your resume, getting your cover letters. You need to do your research. When we tell a client who is in a job search, searching for a job is a full-time job. It is a full-time job. In order for one of my clients to put together a good resume, we figured they were going to need between 80 and 120 hours work on putting together just their resume. That's not in addition to their cover letter. It takes that long to get it refined because your resume speaks for you. It is your personal sales representative. You are selling yourself when you send out your resume. Are you happy with the product that you want someone to buy? Someone's going to pay money for you. You want to put your best foot forward because you want the most money and the best job you can get your hands on. Your resume is your most valuable credential. It tells people what you have done. It tells people who you are. It tells people what you want to do. It tells people how well you've done what you've done. All of those things show up in your resume. I have looked at some of your resumes, and some of them are pretty good looking. There's others that need a lot of work. I'm going to help you build your resume. I have your resume and cover letters that you've turned in. After we get through with this today, I want you to take your resume and make some adjustments to it and then email that to me. That's the one I'm going to start marking up. And I'm going to help you rebuild your resume or build your resume or improve your resume. My email is Agnetta, A-G-N-E-T-T-A, @andrews.edu. Its potential. Resume has great potential. It creates exposure. Again, you can't be everywhere at one time. You've got a great job over on the East Coast, but boy, there's a nice job over on the West Coast. Your resume creates that exposure for you. It goes where you can. If you do your resume well, it can set you apart. It can make a difference in how people see you. It increases your visibility. The more people that know about you, the more opportunities you have to get a job. A good resume enhances your earning power. Because if you can demonstrate that you can do things that other people who are entering the job market can't do, you've got a leg up, and it also, because of your experience, gives you a negotiating tool for more money. Doesn't guarantee you will get more money, but it enhances your opportunity to do so. What is the risk? You only get one shot. There is no way to redo it once you've sent it out. Okay? That's why 80 to 120 hours of building a resume is so critical. Because every word that you put into your resume needs to count. You don't want superfluous words in there. How many of you ever done any camping? How many of you ever built a fire? How many matches did it take you to build a fire?
A lot.
One? Many? Okay. Think about it this way. Your resume is your match. You only have one chance to make that fire go boom. Your resume is that one match. Make that match count. Now, I'm going to tell you how little value your resume is. If you're lucky, you'll get a 30-second review by the employer. Now think about it. When I was earlier in my career, I was doing a job search. And I called one employer. It was a time when the job market was hard. I call one employer, and the employer says, I don't have room on my desk for all the resumes I've received. I've got a pile that's 3 feet high behind me of resumes. Well, think about it. If a resume is 1 page, 2 pages at the most, how many resumes are sitting in that 3-foot tall pile? Think about what that employer is doing. He's going quickly through, and he's going to find ways to rule out as many of those resumes as he can. And the ones that are going to stand out are the ones that are organized, that are pithy, that are concise, that are meaty, that he can see, obviously, this person's put in some time. There aren't any misspellings in that resume. You've got a lot of white space in your resume because the eyes of that employer or that recruiter are going to go blink, and they're going to look down your resume, and if they don't see something that really attracts their attention, guess where your resume goes? File 13. That's normally known as the trash can. Now, those are hard facts. Not fun to hear. Resume content. Obviously, you want your name in there. You want your address. You want phone numbers. Don't put your work phone number. It's not good business practice to put your work phone number on your resume, because then your employer wonders, what are you doing? Sitting at work looking for a job? Personal profile. Now, this is the part that comes right at the top of your page. You can do one of 2 things here. You can do an objective statement, which is, this is what I'm about, this is what I want. Or you can do a personal profile, which again paints that word picture about who you are, what your skills are, and everything else that you come with as a package. We talked about the career objective statement. It doesn't need to be a long statement, especially if you're just coming out of school. You need to show your education. You need to show your work experience. Have you had a lot of work experience? I had a student from Andrews here, was here several years ago, probably 7 or 8 years ago. Don't remember what the circumstances were, but he came in and I was doing some coaching with him on his resume and his interview skills. And lo and behold, as I started listening to him, he started sharing his life. He had started a business, computer repair business, when he was 14 or 15 years old in high school. And he had 5 or 6 years of experience already that he had done as an entrepreneur. But he wasn't showing that on his resume at all. It was wild. And so I started, and my eyes got big. I said, wow, you don't have this shown anywhere on your resume. You need to put that on there. Well, about a month ago, I had the opportunity to visit my brother when I took my mother back to his place in New York, and I got the opportunity to eat Sabbath lunch with him. And he said, you have no idea, that resume that we put together got my foot in the door for my first job. And he's gone on to bigger and better things since then. So it's always fun to hear your stories after you've succeeded. Volunteer experience. Let's say you don't have any work experience, but surely you've probably all volunteered along the way somewhere. So the key is you need to get and demonstrate how you have used your time, your skills, as you have been growing up, going through high school. Did you go on a mission assignment? Absolutely put that in there. Those things are important. They will tell, they are painting a picture about who you are, what you do. People are interested in you if you are interested in them. Remember, your job is not about you. Your job is to help your employer accomplish their mission and their goals. If you go in with the attitude that your job, you are the end-all of end-alls, you won't get a job. But if you go in trying to figure out ways that you can help serve your employer and help your employer accomplish everything that they're trying to do, you will be much better able to land that job. Leadership experience. Class offices. How many of you have had class offices? You can put that on your resume. That shows leadership. It shows organizational skills. It shows, honestly, it shows how you got along with people. Because you don't usually get elected to a class office unless you have good relationships with your fellow students, or what we would say in the business world, with your colleagues. What kind of format should your resume look like? It must be scannable. You don't want a lot of small, tight print. You want the employer to be able to look down that quickly and say, wow, this person has skills that I want to pursue. So it's got to be scannable with just the blink of an eye. It must be spacious. Don't cram a lot of non-essential verbiage into your resume. In fact, it's just the opposite. You need to wordsmith your resume down to the minimal number of words to get your message across. Take out every word. Be brutal on your resume preparation. It must be substantial. Don't put fluff into your resume. Your resume must be concrete. It must be cogent. It must have meat to it. But don't put fluff in there. It must be organized. Typically, when you are looking for a job in the business world, you will put your education at the end of your resume. If you are looking for a job in the educational world, your credentials will go at the top of your resume. You will want to have a section on work experience. You'll want to have a section on educational experience. You'll want to have a section on volunteer experience. If you have leadership experience, put that in there. But put it in an organized fashion so that it flows well with the way your resume reads. It must be convincing. I read a letter that one of you wrote, and we'll get into the cover letter next week. But I saw a sentence that said, this sentence started out by saying, I saw your job in such and such. It seems that my skills might be useful to you. Was that convincing? No, that wasn't convincing. My skills seem to be a perfect match for what you are looking for. You see how just flipping that around a little bit changed the tone of that sentence. Be factual. A couple of years ago, there was a story in educational circles about a registrar who had been doing her job for like 18 years. And all of a sudden, someone decided to go look at her resume. And on her resume, she had information that it turned out was false. And after 18 years of doing her job and doing it very well, she got fired for falsifying her resume. That's hard. That's cold. That's reality. Don't lie about what you've done or haven't done. Be factual. Let people know what you've done. Don't be embarrassed about what you've done, but don't create something you haven't done. Must be concrete. Your resume must be solid. It must have a solid feel to it when people look at it. I know about this person knows what he or she wants. She knows where they're going. Absolutely. Be solid in your presentation. More must. You must use numbers. It's going to be a little bit harder, but even in your setting, you can use numbers. How many of you have a 3.5 GPA or above? Don't tell me. Put it in your resume. That's a number. People's eyes, they quickly move to numbers. So you want to put that in there. My job in previous organizations that I've worked for, I had to go in and help do a reorganization of middle management. I was able to save $1 million through the process that we put the organization through. Wow, $1 million saved. Number. I didn't write it out. I used a number because people's eyes will jump to numbers. Use numbers wherever possible. I did college in 1 year. Wow, that's a great number. Use it. We all have skills and all have abilities. Some of us are better writers than others. Some of us can really take a pen and paint a picture. Create a mosaic of who you are. You want that employer to have some idea about who you are as a person when they look at your resume and they read your cover letter. Be an artist about yourself. Paint a picture. I'm saying the same things in those 2 bullets, but it's so important. That resume needs to leave an impression. You need to leave a picture in that employer's mind. You must be confident. You cannot be iffy in your cover letter or in your resume. You need to be able to let them know that you know what you want and you know how to get it. Things to avoid. Empty words. Be brutal when doing your resume. And I've used that word several times already. Be brutal with your words. Take out superfluous words. When you get to the point that you've been in business as long as I have, it's very easy, or as long as Dr. Murray has, it's very easy to have a resume or a curriculum vitae that could be 3, 4, 5 pages long. In the business world, not in the educational world, we're talking about 2 different worlds. In the educational world, they like length on your resume. In the business world, I don't care how long you've been doing what you're doing, 1 or 2 pages at most. Don't go back more than, this doesn't apply to you, don't go back more than 20 years. How many of you are 20 years old? None of you. All right. Point made. Space is valuable. Make every word count. Avoid religion, politics, national origin. I told you that I went to Russia to recruit programmers. It was fascinating, having spent so many years in the American culture doing human resource administration and recruitment. How many of you in America would send your picture in with your resume? That's a huge no-no. Virtually every Russian that I interviewed sent their picture in with their resume. It was common practice. And it really put the employer in an awkward situation, because if we turned someone down and it was based on the color of their skin, then we're really in trouble. So don't put a picture associated with your resume, because it can lead to revealing something about maybe your religion, maybe your national origin, or your race. You don't want that to influence their decision-making process. Okay, we just talked about that. Don't make comments about your health. An employer is not allowed to make a decision about whether you are the right person for the job based on your health. Okay? So, there are people that have health problems. And sometimes they'll be right up front and telling you, and it makes it very difficult later on, because there are dollar signs attached to health conditions. An employer may say, if you tell them too much information, an employer may say, I don't want to hire you because you're going to cost me more than what I pay you in health dollars. So don't say anything about your health, whether it's good or whether it's bad. Well, we talked about that. Don't do gimmicks. Don't try to be fancy with your resume. Don't try to send it in on hot pink paper. Send it in on business-like paper. And that's it. Questions? Yes?
What about, have you heard of resumes?
Pardon me?
Resumes.
Resumes?
Have you heard of Prezi?
No. Tell me. I'm here to learn.
It's like a program that you use to make a PowerPoint more awesome, more cool, I guess.
It's a video presentation? Or
It's not so much a video presentation. It's almost like PowerPoint in which you click and slides receive, but it's more artistically sung. So they have a program set up in which you can make like a resume. So you make your resume on that PowerPoint.
Okay.
Type thing with slides and things.
Interesting. No, I have not heard of that. Now, that doesn't mean anything either. I haven't been in the recruiting field, although I've been in the human resource field. I haven't been in the recruiting field for a long time.
So would you think that would be, just like a given, would that be too much?
Depends on what you are applying for. If it is something having to do with artistic presentation, probably not. I have not heard of that, and I would certainly want to see it before I would send it, before I would answer, yeah, go for it. But then again, you know, as I said, it's been a long time since I've recruited. The recruiting here is done on a departmental basis. So if there's an opening in the chemistry department, the chemistry search committee will do their own recruiting. So we don't do it from a centrally positioned location in the university. Other questions? Yes, ma'am.
So I've been working since I was 15, and I've had a lot of different jobs. Do I include all the jobs I've ever had since I was 15, or where do I pick and choose?
Have they been substantial jobs?
Yeah.
Then I'd include them.
I mean, I've had tons of different jobs.
Okay. Well, tons of different jobs is different than substantial jobs.
Okay, define substantial jobs then.
Well, have you stayed at one job for a length of time?
Yeah.
Or have they been short-term jobs?
More in the short term, like for the summer or for the school year.
You know, again, if you have managed to work for a summer in a given job and you can show that I started here this summer, but I moved up to cashier or the next summer, and I moved up to team leader the next summer, you're showing progression. You're showing something that you have done that demonstrates that you're maturing and you're taking on more responsibility. So if you can do that, absolutely. And remember, if you've got enough to do 2 pages, that's fine. Don't go more than 2 pages. Other questions?
So when you talked about the white space, what did you mean there, the white space? Because I know that issue also comes up when we talk about doing PowerPoint presentations,
Okay.
and they also recommend more white space than a lot of clutter.
Basically, you want to be very pithy in your word choice, and by being pithy in your word choice, you leave space open. It's very easy to read a document that has white space built into it, and you've got points that are structured throughout that page. But if you have just a paragraph, and that's what you see, you're not getting white space on that page. You want your words to be few, and you want your space to be many. But you've got to get your point across. So some of it's just called experimentation. And there are some of your resumes that, as I looked at them, there's some nice presentation in there. I would not be unwilling to look at several of the resumes that I saw. But again, make sure that you're limiting your word and your verbiage to as little as possible to get the message across.
What about like font size and style of font and all of that too? I mean, does an employer want someone to have like these artistic?
No,
Okay.
no.
Yeah.
Business font
Yeah.
that's easy to read. If you put a font on there that's hard to read, I can guarantee you that the first thing that will happen to it, they will open it up, they will look at it, and they'll go, psh, and it's gone. So we will talk, when you put your resume together, use standard page sizes, but use stationery that has a high rag content. A high rag content says quality. And so when that employer feels that paper and they note that you've used a very good quality paper, you've already said something without even saying a word to that employer. That employer says, this person cares. They care enough to get quality paper to send out and make a first impression. So not only,
Not this kind of paper.
no, not your copier paper. Not only do they see it, but they feel it. And again, you're painting a picture about yourself, and it's just as as you're going through school, the best teachers are going to find multiple ways for you to learn, i.e. auditory, eyes. You're in a lab, that's hands-on tactical experience. So the same thing goes here. If all you send is a copier paper, You've made a statement about yourself. You're cheap and you're not worth the value. So make a strong, confident statement. What else? Any other things? You better ask questions now.
Do you guys have specific questions? I mean, based on what you hear, what you submitted, and now, how soon do you want to revise?
As soon as they get done with them.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
When we do our interviews with you, do you want us to keep that same job that we wrote about in our cover letters?
It doesn't make any difference to me. We will talk about the job that you're applying for when you come in for the interview. If you found another one, that's okay.
And will you want us to like make up some things about ourselves for that interview?
No.
Based on,
I
okay.
want you to be who you are. I want you to be factual.
So we don't say that we've graduated and have a PhD, or just
No.
okay. Just making
No.
sure.
If you don't have a PhD, don't tell me you do, because I'll fire you if you do.
Just making sure.
Other questions, comments? It's work, but it's fun. And remember, it's your future. Put your best foot forward. Okay?
Oh, I have one more question.
Yes, ma'am.
What if you have letters of recommendation from previous employers?
Good point, good question. You don't need to say anything about references being provided. If they are interested in you and they want letters of references, they will ask for them. And that just takes up space on your resume. I mean, that's how brutal this is. References will be provided is superfluous. It does not need to be on your resume. That is assumed.
So do we put references then on our resume? From
No.
Just none?
No,
Not even?
that is assumed. If you
Okay.
get down that far, they will probably ask you for resumes or references. And let me talk to you a little bit about setting up your references. If you are going to use someone as a reference, you always get their permission. And then you always say to them, it is likely that someone from such and such a company will be calling you. Here are the things that we talked about. You want your references to help you get your job. And if you don't set your reference up and prepare your reference, they can't do the best job for you. They need to know what the job is that you're going for. They need to know where it is. They need to know if it's a good fit for you based on your interview. So you need to take time to prepare people to be your references. Don't assume that everyone's going to answer the question. I'll tell you a story. When I was doing a job search several years ago, before I came here, I was being considered for a vice president of human resources with a corporation. And I had been laid off from my job. We were in a budget crunch. And I talked to my administrative assistant and I said, would you be a reference for me? And she says, I'm sure, I would be happy to. And I assumed that she was going to be a good reference. The company asked their reference checker to give my references a call. And when they called her, she said, I can only give you name, rank, and serial number. Basically, I can only give you, yeah, he worked here, these were the dates he worked here. I can't tell you whether we'd rehire them or not. Guess what? I learned from that reference checker that that was my death knell. That wiped me out of that job because that left a negative impression. So you've got to pay attention to the details of your job search. You've got to keep your references informed. You need to communicate with them when they should expect a call, and you need to help them tell your story. Because that's really what your interview is about, is telling your story. Other questions? If not, you have my email address. Feel free to contact me with any questions that you might have. And I will keep track of those who send corrected resumes in. And we will start working on them and seeing what we can do to help you with suggestions on improving them.
And CC me on the revised resume, so when you send them to Mr. Agnetta, just CC me on them as well.
Okay?
Appreciate it.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
attention. Great class.